Really quick, before we get started, I apologize for any background noise that may or may not be happening. My neighbor is doing yard work. I might not live in an apartment complex anymore, but I'm still cursed with background yard work. While I'm redrawing some old art, I thought it would be great to talk about how art progress works. So let's do that while ignoring any potential background noise. Hello and welcome back to my channel. Hope you're doing well. I think it was in my comfort zone video that I did about a month ago where I briefly talked about art progress. And I said, generally speaking, the more you draw and the longer you've been drawing, the more you will improve with your art. But I also said that it's a much more complicated topic than that. And I thought that it would make a pretty great video to talk about. No, it'll be a good topic for a video. And since I wanted to continue redrawing some old art, I figured now's the perfect time because hopefully I've made progress since these other drawings. I did tour these sketchbooks many months ago now. I don't even know how long ago, but if you want to check that video out first, I'll leave that in the iCard for you. You don't really need to know context you don't need to watch that one before this one, but in case you want to, it'll be there. But generally speaking, more time and more experience equals you get better at art. But it is a lot more complicated and is not as simple as more time and more experience equals being better at art. Because there are a lot of things that go into each individual piece of art that you make, and there's so much that goes into each and every little aspect of your progression as an artist. Zola, please don't. I already have to deal with background noises. I don't need you barking. A quick disclaimer before I talk about anything really in this video. I do want to say that while I do strongly believe that everything I'm going to be talking about in this video does affect everybody, the way that it affects people and the degree to which it affects people really varies from person to person. Seeing as I am just one person, I am going to be talking about my own personal experiences a lot, and I am going to be talking about how these things affect me, but they might affect you completely differently. This is one topic where there is absolutely not a one-size-fits-all definition and answer. So I just want you to keep that in mind as you are watching this, and feel free to let me know how these things affect you. Some of the things that I'm talking about might affect you very, very little. Some things might affect you a whole fuck ton. Every person is different. But with that, let's get into it. Let's say you'd make a drawing and it doesn't turn out quite the way you wanted it to. Sure, there are a lot of art-related reasons why that might be. You might be using an art medium that you're not super comfortable with, or you might be trying to draw something new or something that you're not used to drawing. And there are definitely reasons like that that can make you look at your art and think, wow, I have not really progressed that much. There's also a lot of outside factors and things unrelated to art that can go into why it might feel like you're not progressing. Even if that's not exactly true as a statement, there are definitely a lot of times where you as an artist can feel like you aren't growing or improving at all. And to talk about that, we will talk about how your mental health affects your art. Yes, we're going straight into it. Starting out strong here in this video. Because fuck it, why not? I thought about talking about some other stuff, but I feel like this leads in nicely to everything else I want to talk about. So we're starting off here. I myself personally have been diagnosed with depression and anxiety. I have not been diagnosed with ADHD, but it's possible, it's likely. But even if you aren't diagnosed with anything, it doesn't really matter. There's still some mental hurdles that can affect your art progress or make you think that you're not progressing. And it is a very, very big part in this whole topic of improving your art. And I tried to arrange this the best that I can, but it is me, so I apologize if it sounds a little messy and I'm jumping from topic to topic. Trying my best. But even if you aren't diagnosed with any sort of mental disorders, I forgot the word for a second. Good job, me. Everybody goes through a funk every now and again, and you can just be going through some stuff in your personal life that makes it hard to feel motivated to draw, and if you are currently drawing, it makes it hard to feel enjoyment in that moment. It might not make the happy sparks go off in your brain as much as it used to, and as a result, you might put in a little bit less effort into your drawing. I like that voice crack. I was going to move on, but I can't. So we're just going to acknowledge it. Let's say you have some mental struggles going on that's completely unrelated to art, and then you go and draw. If you're kind of going through it at the moment, your art might not look the best, and then you might look at that and think, wow, this is shit. What happened? And I think in that moment, it's hard to register in your brain that it's not an issue with art, it's an issue with mental health. And because of that, you might just think, wow, I'm not improving as an artist, and then you feel bad about yourself and you want to die. But don't. You're not allowed to. For me personally, how it's been lately, my mental health is kind of affecting how long it takes me to finish a piece. I never have a solid answer on how long a drawing takes me, because sometimes it can take 3 hours, sometimes it can take 8. It really just depends on what it is I am drawing. I would say on average, normally it would take me like 5 to 6 hours, but if you've been paying attention to the community tabs on my channel here, you might know that I'm going through a bit of a funk. I don't really want to call it a depressive episode, but definitely things have been a little, there with my mental problems. That makes no sense. Maybe it does. I don't really know. The long story short, because of all of that, it is taking me a lot longer to finish pieces that normally would only take me a few hours to make. And in situations like that, it can really feel like a step backwards, because theoretically, if you draw the same picture 20 times, by the time you get to the 20th picture, you should be able to draw it faster because you start to get that muscle memory. You start to know your way around it a little bit more, I guess. And while I guess it's a general statement that is true, again, it's a lot more complicated than that. Whether it's a lack of motivation, whether it's struggles focusing, or any other reason, a drawing that used to take you 3 hours to make can take you 5 hours or 6 hours or whatever it may be to make the same drawing. That doesn't mean that you aren't progressing. That just means that there's outside forces in your life affecting your art. I feel like that's going to be a recurring theme throughout this video, but it is a point that I want to keep reinforcing because, again, in that moment, it might not feel like it is outside forces affecting your art. It can feel like there's a lack of growth as an artist on your end, but that's not true. And I also think that any mental struggles that a person might be going through can directly relate to creative burnout, and it can really feel like another voice crack, nice. It can really feel like a vicious cycle of being burnt out, and so then when you try to draw, your art doesn't turn out good, and then that makes you sad, and then that sadness can make you feel even more burned out, and it just keeps looping forever, and it sucks. But if you are going through something mentally, it can really make you feel burnt out in a lot of different aspects in your life, including art. And of course, if that is something that is an issue for you, your art isn't going to turn out the best ever. But I also want to really stress that that isn't a bad thing. That doesn't mean that you're a bad artist. It doesn't mean that you're not growing. You do need to make that acknowledgement of, okay, this art isn't my best. Is it an art-related issue, or is it an entirely different issue? Going through any sort of mental struggles or burnout, or both, can also make you retreat back to your comfort zone. In my comfort zone video, I did kind of touch on how staying within your comfort zone can stunt your artistic growth. And I do think that comfort zones do play a big part in how much you grow as an artist, which I believe I talked about in that video, but I don't actually remember because that was a month ago and I don't like watching my own videos, so you can let me know if that's actually true or not. But when you draw the same thing over and over and over again, it's another reason why it can feel like you aren't progressing as an artist. But it doesn't mean that you haven't grown as an artist. It just means that you need your comfort zone in that moment, or maybe at the moment that's all you're really capable of drawing, and again, it's not a bad thing. Doesn't mean you haven't grown as an artist. It just means that I had a thought on what that means, but I forgot what it was, so that's great. But if you do find yourself retreating to your comfort zone over and over and over again, doesn't mean that you aren't progressing as an artist. It just means that you might be going through that little bit of mental or creative exhaustion, and you need a little bit of a breather, which does kind of lead in nicely to giving yourself a break. Let yourself have a break. Do it. Don't. Just don't. I've had a lot of struggles in my life of having an overly guilty conscience of letting myself take breaks, and whenever I'm not doing something productive, like if I'm just chilling playing a video game or something, I'm like, oh, but you could be working, you could be drawing, you could be doing something productive. And so then I would try to do that, but then that would just make myself feel even more burned out. And what can burnout lead to? Depression and feeling like you suck, which makes it feel like didn't progress as an artist. See, everything's all connected. But it might seem a little bit backwards to say that like taking a break can help with your artistic productivity and your artistic growth, but it is very true. Having no breaks is a very, very bad thing. It's really hard to force creativity. And there are definitely times where you can make yourself be inspired. Like if you're an artist, you can look at art from people that you're inspired by. If working in a clean environment helps you feel more inspired, you can tidy up your room. If leaving the house makes you feel inspired, you can leave your house. But while all of that are things that you can do, it's not going to work every time because we're just people, and sometimes you do just need a break. And if you try to force yourself to work when you really should be taking a break, it can just make the creative exhaustion worse. And when your creative exhaustion is worse and you try to make creative things during that exhaustion, they're not going to turn out the best, because of course they're not, because you didn't let yourself get a break, and then you feel like shit and you hate yourself. That's something very, very important that I want all of you to keep in mind, is that people aren't meant to do the same thing 24/7. That's just not how humans were built. Nobody is meant to do their hobby, their passion, or their job 24/7. Sometimes you sit down to draw and you feel like just in that moment you physically can't, and that is absolutely 100% okay. It doesn't make you a bad artist. It doesn't mean that you don't like drawing anymore. It just means that you need to relax and unwind a little bit and do something not art related. If you let yourself have that break and then you come back and draw, you might actually start to see the progress that you so crave, because big surprise, when you're not exhausted, it's easier to do stuff. Now, if you're looking at your art and you don't see the progress that you want to see, you should ask yourself, how much have you been drawing? And this seems like a complete 180 from everything that I just talked about. But there is also a point to be made that if you don't draw somewhat consistently, you will get rusty and you won't improve as quickly as you want to. But of course, you have to let yourself take breaks, and you can't draw 24/7. It really is finding a balance between those two. And what is that balance? I don't fucking know. This is definitely a problem that doesn't have a one-size-fits-all answer, and it's not a problem that has a one-size-fits-all answer for the same person. If you look at me, for example, I used to fill out a sketchbook like every 2 to 3 months, and now a sketchbook takes me maybe 6 months if I'm lucky, and that's because I used to be able to draw 24/7 and feel fine. I used to be able to draw basically every moment of my day and not feel burned out, but currently in this moment, it's hard for me to even get down the bare minimum of drawing. Obviously, art is my job, so I have to draw weekly, I have to draw nearly every day, but by the time I'm done doing my regular artwork stuff, I'm like, wow, if I pick up a pencil, I think I'm gonna barf. So basically, my drawing to not drawing ratio has really shifted in terms of when I need to give myself a break, and I'm sure it'll shift again in the future. I'm sure there will be a time where I am able to draw basically every moment of my life and feel fine, and I'm sure after that, there will be another time where I'm right back here, where even doing my work-related art is a little bit exhausting. It really, really depends. The best advice I can give is just listen to yourself and be kind to yourself, because again, you can't force creativity, and trying to force yourself to work and to be creative when you are going through some sort of burnout or exhaustion, it'll only make your art worse, I guess, which is the opposite of what you want. And I guess sort of on the same topic, having a shift in your art can kind of affect how you progress, and I don't really know if that makes a whole lot of sense as a statement on its own, so let me try to explain. I use a lot of super bright colors, and so I'm very comfortable using bright colors, and my use of bright colors, I would say, has improved. But if I were to try using a more dull color scheme or a more monochromatic color scheme, my skills in that have not really improved because I have not done that. I would also say that as the years go on, I have started making more digital art compared to traditional art, and so if we look at my old digital art and my new digital art, I would say that that has improved a lot. And with my traditional art, while I'm not going to say that I haven't improved, I would say that the scale of which I have improved is less because I have been doing less traditional art. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, it really just depends on what you prefer as an artist. If you prefer digital art over traditional art and you really want to improve your skills in that field, then there's nothing wrong with having more growth with one specific aspect of your art, if that's what you've been focusing on and if that's what you enjoy making. Art really is just a subjective thing, so you might find yourself improving more and drawing the things that you enjoy drawing versus the things that you don't necessarily enjoy drawing. I draw a lot more people than I do backgrounds, for example, and so the way that I draw people in terms of like anatomy and proportions and expressiveness, all of that is improved, but I draw backgrounds a lot less than I do people, and so my backgrounds might not have improved as much. I'd say practice makes perfect, but I don't really believe in perfection. Practice makes you not hate it. And if we look at the drawings that I made in this video, you can probably see some instances where I improved a lot and some instances where I haven't improved as much. One of which I think is sketches. I think I really improved with the way that I draw sketches, and that's probably directly related to the fact that I sketch more than I do finished illustrations. But my sketches, to me at least, seem a lot more confident, they seem a lot more loose, they seem a lot more natural, and you can definitely tell that there are certain poses and such that I feel a lot more comfortable drawing, and certain poses that I've gotten better at drawing. Like the very first sketch that I did in this video, I think it's a big step up from the original drawing. And then the line art drawing with blue touches, I think that that was also a really big step up from the original drawing. But if we look at the drawing of my character Mabel, I would say that that one has improved a little bit less, and I think a big part of that is because of the pose. I don't draw poses like this super often, so it was a little bit less comfortable for me, and I haven't gotten as good at drawing them. And I do think that the redraw does look a lot more stiff than both of the originals. To be fair, a part of that is because I was running out of space on the page and I wanted to include her other arm, but that's definitely not the only issue. I would say that it's a combination of the nature of the pose and just straight on front angle that made it a little bit difficult for me to draw, because those aren't things that I really draw as much. I really enjoy drawing like flowy things and like movement and stuff, and so if you look at the first sketch that I did, even though they are just standing there, we have movement in the skirt, which I think just makes it a lot more fun for me to draw, and it makes me more excited to draw it, which I think as a result makes the thing come out a little bit better. Whereas if we have the drawing like Mabel, it's something that I'm a little bit less excited to draw, and so it's something that I put a little bit less effort in. And so I would say that in terms of improvement, this one I've improved less with when compared to the other drawings in the video. And if we look at the drawing of Aspen swinging her baseball bat, I would say that that's something that I improved a lot with. Not necessarily with the baseball bat itself, which, side note, I guess, I started drawing this and was like, I won't look up a reference, I'm too lazy. And then I got like maybe a minute in and I was like, I need a reference. So here's a friendly reminder to use art references. But this drawing has a lot of movement. There's a lot of flowy fabrics, her hair's going everywhere. There's a lot of movement in the pose itself, so I had a lot of fun doing this, and it was something that I was excited to make. And so I think as a result, it's another drawing that I've improved a lot with. And then I think when it comes to both the line art drawing and the finished illustration in this video, I think both of these show a lot of growth in posing characters and composition. The line art drawing, should I call it a line art drawing? There are colors in there. Well, we'll call it the line art drawing. If we look at the line art drawing, I could tell in the original I really wanted to try and play around with some different angles, but since that's not something I did at the time, it's not something that I was very good at. But that is something that I have played around a lot with in the future. Recently, I don't know. It's something that I have done now. And so I think you can actually tell that this is supposed to be from a more above angle. And in the original drawing, she was just standing there, hand on her hip. Classic artist pose. But in here, I played a lot more with her facial expression and her pose. And I think overall, it's a lot more interesting to look at. And then if we look at the finished illustration in the original, it was very empty. That's the best way I can put it. And sure, the original was just a sketch that I did in my sketchbook that I added some colors on and everything. It seemed very empty. Again, empty, yeah. I don't know what, that we don't have to talk about how I just said that sentence. It seems very empty. The composition is a little odd. The pose is a little eh. But what's funny is that despite all of that, I remember at the time being really fucking proud of this drawing, and I would show all my friends and be like, look at this. It's amazing. And I would say if we look at that drawing and compare it to some of my even older art, yeah, you would see progress. You would see some growth between those two drawings. But luckily, I have improved even more. At least I think so. I hope so. Please tell me I've improved. And so I have gotten better with how I draw people. I've improved with composition on a page. I've improved with filling up space. I would say I've improved with how I used color, but as of recording this, I haven't actually colored the drawing, so I don't actually know. But we'll say I improved with color. But I do also think it is worth noting that even though I am satisfied with how the drawing came out, or at least I'm assuming I will be, again, haven't done the coloring phase, I do also think that it's not the best drawing ever. Since I have been gravitating more towards digital art lately, I think this drawing would have come out better if it was a digital drawing rather than a traditional drawing. And I also find that the traditional art that I make in videos tends to be, at least generally, a bit worse than the traditional drawings that I'll make in my own personal time, and that's because I'm filming generally generally I like to draw with my face almost directly above the paper, but I can't exactly do that in a video because my big ol' head will be in the way and you guys won't actually be able to see what the fuck I'm doing. And so sometimes there are some issues with scaling or proportions, or maybe the line art's a little wobbly here and there because I tried to give you guys a good viewing experience. Except for that one time where I just had to shove my face directly in there and just say fuck it because I needed to fix their face. But while this drawing isn't the best drawing that I've ever made, there is definitely progress, which is nice. And I know I kind of just started rambling on and on about the art that I made in this video, but I did want to talk a little bit about them, just so then hopefully it can help you see what I mean by progress isn't as simple as just a straight line forward all of the time, and that there's a lot that goes into it. And I guess the final point I want to make in this video is that everybody's different. Not only will all of these things affect each individual person differently, but also every person learns at a different rate, and every person grows at a different rate. Some people can draw 10 drawings and see improvement. Some people can draw 100 drawings and then see improvement. And you might be one of those people and see the people who improve by just drawing 10 drawings and think, wow, it couldn't be me. But it's something that I've said before on this channel, and it's something that I want to say again. It's something that I will continue to say. Instead of comparing yourself to other artists that you see, don't focus on doing the best that someone else can do. Focus on doing the best that you can do. Because you are not other artists, you are you. So just focus on you. Focus on your improvement. Focus on your art journey, and everything will be okay, I promise. But just how much did I improve? Let's compare the new drawings to the old drawings. But before that, I would like to give a really, really big thank you to all of my patrons. Take it away, other recorded Oliver. I'd like to give a big shout out to all of my patrons for helping make this video possible, especially my tiers 3 and 4 members. Big shout out to Jules, Sammy Yang 127, Wildflower, Hale, The Tiny Artist, Sammy Cooper, Jupiter Draws, Nyoko Arts, Sade Rosado, Ellie, Isla, Is Dorky Arts, Castle Roodle, Star Peachy, Orange Mango, Anna, Soli Sor Uwu, Nayhaven, Livia M, Kiara, Hikari Yu, Jamie, Jadios, Creatively Anxious, Everyday Today, Grace Leanne, Dazzy Bones, That Demon Hickson, Michael Sasha Rose, Red Boots the Time Traveler, Cyphernatic, Bloomerang, Kaya Knight, Ghost of Miles, Lauka 2, Ava Krupp, Yapolis, Clementine Jam, Lovely Siren, Jay Johnson, Vivi Martin, Bread, Bao Soup, Sarah Truly, Chewy Ghoul, Fantastic Artist, Newly D, Cedric James, Dishwasher, Sierra Jarama, Elirdis, Joss, J Maximus, Mel W, and La Larissa. Thank you all so much for the extra support. It really means a lot to me. If you're interested in becoming a part of my Patreon, feel free to check the description box below and follow the links there. Thank you, other recorded Oliver. Well, I felt a little rambly at the end, but I hope I still said something of use to you in this video. Again, I am only one person, and so I'm speaking a lot from my own personal experiences with art growth, but feel free to let me know how any of these things affect you. Let me know if there's something that I didn't talk about in this video that you think also directly relates to your progress as an artist. I would love to hear it. Also, feel free to let me know which redraw is your favorite. I would definitely love to hear it. It was kind of hard for me to pick some sketches to draw from sketchbook number 5 because flipping through it, I felt a lot less inspired, I guess. There was a lot less drawings in here that I felt compelled to redraw. And then on the opposite side, there are a lot of drawings in sketchbook number 4 that I would have loved to redraw. But this video can only be so long. There's only so much I can redraw. Maybe in the future, but I hope you enjoyed the drawings that I did end up picking out. And if you are new here, hello, my name is Oliver. I post new videos here every single week. I draw a lot in this channel, obviously. In this video, I drew my original characters. I'll also draw fan art. Sometimes I'll do sketch vlogs. Sometimes I'll do whatever. It changes, but if any of that seems interesting to you, feel free to subscribe. I would love to have you over here. If you want to see more from me, you can follow me on social media. Those will be shown on screen now and linked in the description box below. And if you want to see more of my videos, those will also be on screen now, as well as in the iCard for you to check out if you want. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week. Bye.